I'm Paramjit MB and I'm an Airfix designer, and I designed the Airfix Mosquito and built and painted them. So I designed the Mosquito from scratch and used original scan data and done the skeleton model from the base all the way up to the finished design. It's one of the first ones where I've designed more or less from scratch since when I started. So on the previous ones I'd done the Tiger tank, the starter Spitfire, the classic Spitfire, the more complicated one, the Spitfire 5C, and the Red Arrows Hawk, which is a starter set. So this project was quite a special one because it was like what I've learned from those previous 4 projects and applying it to this one, because this one was one where I've more or less done it from start to finish myself, whereas the other ones I had help in terms of the other designers helping me, providing other existing materials such as like the existing skeleton models from previous designs. But this one was more or less from scratch, so it was almost like a benchmark to see where I've progressed in the year and a half I've been here. All of it was quite difficult, but in particular when I start a project I like building other competitor products, as in our closest rivals in terms of what we're doing. That gives me a better understanding of how I want to design it and where the flaws are and what I can improve. So the competitor one I was building, the landing gear was very difficult to put together, and it was difficult from a building point of view and also from a painting point of view, but mainly from a painting point of view. So when I done it, I had in my mind, okay, there needs to be a better way to design it and obviously paint and build. So that was one of my main focuses. One thing that hasn't been done in this scale, which is 1/72, is an internal bomb bay and everything, having that all on show. And from designing it, I realised why, because it's actually really difficult to do that. So that was quite a big challenge. Might not seem like it, but working in this scale, you've got a lot less material to work with, and because obviously it's smaller. So that was quite a big challenge, but getting that right, and I'm quite happy with the way it came out. Building and painting was quite fun. All those things that I designed to make it easier to build and paint paid off. I'm quite happy with it. For example, like the landing gear, I used the lower wing as a jig, so you can build the landing gear on top of that without gluing it, and then removing it, and then building your nacelle and everything on top, painting that all up, and then putting the landing gear after, so it makes it a lot easier to paint. And also the wheel, and you can put on after, so you can paint it all separately. The wheel hub is separate as well, so you can paint it the different colour, which is that silver hub colour, and then obviously the rubber tyre. The exhaust stacks were done in a certain way to make it more accurate. I done a mask set, or like a masking piece that goes over the nacelle landing gear door, so you can paint it, weather it and stuff like that, and then you can just put that piece over it temporarily and then paint your external colours of the Mosquito and carry on building it. But yeah, I was really happy the way everything sort of came together, because obviously it's one thing designing it and then another seeing it in reality. And obviously I tested it all out and I'm pleased with the results, but obviously it depends on what our customers think. Hopefully they see how much time and effort has gone into it, and hopefully it does pay off. The way I sort of build it is quite standard now. I've sort of like come up with a method of how I want to build it. So I always paint it. I've done the wings separately because they can be attached after, because of the spar system. So I painted those all separately, glossed it, put the decals on, then obviously put a flat coat, and then I like weathering with I like using a clay wash and weathering with oils. So that's usually my standard technique of weathering now, and a lot simple. Although this one was a bit more challenging because there's not as many panel lines on top, because it's made out of wood in real life. There's not many rivets or anything like that other than the underneath of the wing. But yeah, that was a fairly interesting thing to do because it's so plain, so trying to make it look realistic and obviously weathering it wasn't a challenge, but it was just a slightly different approach. One part which was quite satisfying was removing the masks from the canopy, because obviously getting us test shots and everything, seeing how, because there's 2 types of sides on the canopy. There's the bulge and then there's a side blister. Obviously gluing it together and checking it whether it goes together okay is fine, but once it's all painted with the framework, that's when I knew, okay, that bulge of the canopy has come out quite nicely. It was a real big challenge to design that in CAD as well. There must have been days where I was doing it, finished it, and then came back the next day and I thought, no, that's not right. And even sometimes like a couple of months later, I would look at it and thinking, no, I can do better. That needs to be more accurate. So there were times where I was going back to it over and over again until it was right, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I want to get it absolutely spot on to the best of my ability, and obviously for the modeler. hopefully they appreciate and understand the thought that's gone into it, because even in the instructions I've given a bit more information than I usually would on how to put parts together. For example, the landing gear, using the bottom wing as a jig. Even inside the bomb bay, there's the bomb bay racks, obviously explaining like which orientation to put them on, because some people kind of miss those key parts, and obviously making it easier to paint. So my main thing is the journey of building the kit and painting it. That's the part that I really enjoy, and that's what sort of makes and breaks a kit. So hopefully that part people appreciate and enjoy, because I'm a modeler myself, so that's the way I sort of think. So it's interesting to see what people think of the way this aircraft goes together. So the landing gear and everything, there wasn't much room to do too much location. So there are these, you got the side landing gear parts, then you got like a strut that goes in the middle. I would say just take your time with that, making sure everything fits, making sure everything's dry. And whenever I do a project, I'm always learning throughout it and at the end of it. So normally I'll write a list of like, or have it in my head of what I do and don't want to do. So something that you probably won't see, but from the design point of view, is stuff like clearances. So anyone who kind of understands about 3D printing and stuff like that will probably understand that when parts need to come together, you need to put clearances. So I've had a much more better understanding of clearances, and in my opinion, that's what makes and breaks a kit in terms of the fitting. So hopefully I can apply that to my next project, and obviously I'll learn from that one and then apply it to the next one and stuff like that. But from that point of view, from a design point of view, I've learned quite a bit on clearances and understand it a lot more, and experimented with it, and hopefully apply it to my next project. So there are little things that will go into like, obviously the building and painting, but also the instructions that I've obviously requested to be inserted. So like different views, more views of like something, even though it takes up a bit more pages and a bit more space, and obviously even the design phase, it took a bit longer than it probably should have, just because I was thinking about so many things at once. So the way my brain works is that I'm thinking about 10 to 100 things at the same time. I'm thinking about other stuff, so how it's built and painted, because obviously that's my background. But yeah, that is probably one of the things that I do hope that people appreciate and understand, and obviously get people's feedback on what works, what doesn't work. I mean, I'm always happy for feedback as well, because I'm sure it doesn't, not everything works for everyone. So it'll be nice to get people's feedback and understand, like, from people who have built it as well. But yeah, hopefully that is one of the things that I'm quite happy about, because obviously going in the design phase and thinking whether this will work or don't work, and obviously building both the A and B scheme on the B16, and thinking, yeah, it has actually worked okay, not too bad. But obviously the critics are in the customer, so this doesn't really matter what I think. It depends on what the customer thinks.